Welcome back to Barry Garage. Today, after much popular demand, we have some answers with Ed. So there's many questions have kind of collected over the last little while, engine build questions primarily. And I'm going to sit down with Ed and we're going to get some answers to some of these questions. So this is going to be a great episode. Thanks for coming along. We're going to start with some questions, Ed. People have been asking questions. They've been collecting on the channel a little bit. Someone said, I have a question regarding the block mains, oil holes. This is back when you did a small block Chevy oiling
Well,
video?
we drilled into the cam bearings, but we went through down to the cam bearing and we kept on going. When made the hole bigger between that no cam bearings in the motor.
Right.
But from there into the oil galley.
Right.
And
so,
we didn't show that. We're sorry we didn't show that. The drill bit going into that oil galley.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the question he's asking, he said, do you drill them out bigger than a quarter? He was guessing maybe it was 5/16.
Yeah, just a little bit bigger. You can buy, bigger than a quarter.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
also the bearings, you have to make the bearings bigger than that again.
Okay.
And that was in that same video.
Right. So people referencing, we did it's called oiling is the first word in that video title.
Yeah.
And so there you go. That's the answer. You drill them out. And he said, I didn't see the hole to the gallery in the cam journals, but we just didn't show it.
We just didn't show it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they do.
All right. Next question. Is there a big difference between boring with or without torque plates?
Some of the engines they are, but we're in production. Sometimes we do. We have torque plates.
Okay.
And we would do that on our race motors,
Mm-hmm.
where we go with high temperatures.
Okay.
Where the motor would, like a dragster, that you'd want the ultimate temperature of an engine to get the most horsepower out of it is around 200.
Okay.
So we would like to warm our engines up. We used to heat them with a heater.
Really?
Before we even started them, a water heater.
Okay.
And we did that for a while, and we'd heat the motors up, and even I think some of the people did it. But then we used to freeze alcohol in a freezer before we made a run with the junior fuel car we're talking about. Anyways, when you get done, the temperature way over 200.
Interesting.
And you let it set and go back to it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And just like, for instance, we know in temperatures, and we'll get away from that a little bit, is a small block Chevy intake manifold aluminum high rise.
Okay.
If it gets up to 180 degrees, it's 25 thousandths longer.
Right.
And every time it cools off, it gets shorter. That's why the end gaskets go right out of it.
Right.
They walk right out. But back to the engine bore then with a torque plate. The Ford motor, 302 Ford motor, is probably the worst one I've ever seen. That whole class of motors, there's not much structure bracing in the block itself.
Okay.
Yeah, in the block itself.
There.
I've seen some demos, and I think it was a SEMA show or someplace, and one of the engine things that we go to, where the guy had a tapered bar that he could put through the main bearings on a 302 Ford.
Okay.
He torqued the heads on it, and the tapered bar wouldn't go through the mains.
Really?
Yeah.
Just when the heads are torqued down?
Just when it torqued the heads.
Okay.
So that means it needs to be torqued, and it needs to be the plates on it, and then bore the engine with the heads. For instance, make believe there's heads on it torqued.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how much it distorts.
I see. So they're kind of representing what it would be like with the heads on.
That's right.
And then
if you use torque plates, then that makes it familiar with the motor, thinks it's all together. But it probably wouldn't fit right. You couldn't get any clearances of it or anything, rod bearing and main bearing clearances correctly, unless you had the torque plates on it also.
Wow, right.
If the crank didn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the weakest motor I've ever seen demonstrated.
Interesting. Okay.
So of our production motors, we really wouldn't have time to do that.
And I'm sure you do so many. You've made adjustments as needed to do your production.
We ship out over 60 motors a month.
Wow.
Plus the ones we do here in town.
Wow.
We ship them
so just shipping away out of town is...
We ship them all around the world.
2 a day just out of... Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Some Fridays we ship 5 or 6 motors on one Friday. And the crate's all done.
Wow. That's really great.
That's part of that, so I hope that clears that up.
Yeah. Very good. That is good. Okay, here's the next question. This is our friend Keith, who's commented quite a bit. He said, I don't know if you would ever do a question and answer episode, so thank you, Keith, for encouraging us to do this. The question he would like to know about setting dual points.
It's a little bit misunderstanding sometimes. If we had them on a dwell meter, we would put a piece of cardboard in one point and set that one.
Okay.
And then put the point in the other one, put the cardboard in the other one, and set that one.
Okay.
And then the both of them would be the dwell that you'd see.
Okay.
Probably 28 to 32 or something like that, I think, instead of 25.
I see.
That's because one opens and the other closes.
Right.
That makes the point contact.
Okay. Yeah,
Is
so
what
they're
it-
working together to do
Yes.
that. Okay.
Yes. And then I don't know if there's any more questions on that.
Yeah, there was.
Well,
He said if you're using a Chevy distributor, the firing order and the rotor speed from cylinder to cylinder must be the same as the original distributor.
Pretty close. We're going to use a Mallory distributor off of a Chevrolet,
Okay.
not a Chevrolet distributor.
Okay.
We use a Mallory. It's a small cap. The cap's the same. But even though, look at the big caps, and some of the big Ford caps and HEI caps were really big.
Yep.
And that's to keep that spark away with higher voltage.
Okay.
So it didn't misfire. On a small distributor, the points of those caps, the plug wires are so close together with any kind of a reference at all as far as compression.
Mm-hmm.
The higher the compression, the better the better spark it has to have.
Okay. Okay.
So for instance, we used to gap our spark plugs at 30 thousandths, and the dragster would go 150 miles an hour. That's it. And it wouldn't misfire, just wouldn't go anymore.
Right.
We set them at 25 thousandths, the spark plugs, and the car went to 155 right there.
Wow. So
that's all.
because of the speed of this thing going.
And the pressure in the cylinder wall.
Ah.
So sometimes that pressure, you spend 180 pounds pressure compression checking with cranking.
Yep.
Well, you probably have 300 or 400 at 6,000 RPMs. So you have to have the best spark you could possibly buy.
Ah, gotcha.
That comes in with the big coils and the bigger condensers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But go back to that thing, why we changed that, I think that question is in there, why I changed the distributor. Somebody said, if you're going dual points, we don't want necessarily dual points. We want the advance in the distributor.
Okay. That's what it's all about.
We want the advance with the mechanism.
Uh-huh.
And Ford does not have that.
Okay.
They have a vacuum advance only. There's not springs that make the rotor advance automatically with RPMs.
Okay. So it doesn't give you the adjustable range that you want.
That's right, with the springs.
Yeah.
And RPMs.
Okay.
So the Ford distributor just sat there with vacuum advance. Vacuum would, because you had vacuum, but going down the roadway under acceleration, you had no vacuum.
Right. Right.
So in that case, the timing went back to whatever you had set, 10 degrees.
Yeah.
You can't get horsepower out of a motor with 10 degrees timing
Right.
24 hours a day,
Right.
under load or not.
Right.
So you need that 32 to 34 degrees. And there's one way to get it. It's a cheap Mallory distributor. You can change the springs in it and machine it down and put it in a Flathead Ford.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
in the 49 to 53 front drive. Makes it really a nice comparison. I had a guy call me the other day and he's having heating problems.
Yeah.
And he had something and he was asking me about timing. And I said, well, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. I think he had a new distributor in that car, the 32 Ford, and a new distributor in it, but it was electronic ignition, which is okay.
Yeah.
You still get that mechanical advance, and that's what we're looking for.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. Wouldn't it be better to use the timing gear cover that you referred to as aluminum with the bottom supports better for higher RPM type engine?
Aluminum front cover, timing cover? Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
The tin one is main, and a lot of times if you buy an aftermarket tin one,
Yep.
I've seen a lot of them where the oil seal is made off center.
Oh,
You got an
wow.
automatic leak in it.
Yeah.
And our tin ones, when we put it on, we inspect that thing and look at the mechanic that puts the assembles the motor. He knows, and actually that inside lip on a chrome valve front cover,
Yep.
it's got that crack where that oil pan gasket is hooked onto that front cover.
Yep.
You really need to silicone that whole thing and seal up that seam.
Okay. Right.
And we take a file and file the backside of the oil seal. That little notch in there, you've seen that probably on one of my
Yeah,
other
you
videos,
did
I
tell us
think,
about that
where
notch.
that empties that oil reservoir in the front oil seal.
Right. Okay.
So much better. We always do aluminum covers on all of our race car motors.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, one last question for Keith here. What Chevy engine had dual points, or from where would that distributor come from?
It was a Mallory distributor.
Okay, I
Not
guess
necessarily Chevrolet.
Okay, so he was
Chevrolet
just
did
assuming.
have dual points, and the no vacuum advance and dual points, and the 2 4-barrels.
Okay.
The Corvette 2 4-barrels, and the 55 Chevy 2 4-barrels, and the fuel injected.
Okay, so those are the cases where there was.
Had dual points and no vacuum advance.
I see.
But it was a cast iron distributor, and that was the early distributor. We use Mallory distributor with the vacuum.
Got it.
Yes.
Moving on to a different video reference, I think when you showed us that bracket you made for the flathead to put the, what were you moving? You're moving the alternator to the top center, I think. Was that a Chevy engine? Someone said that bracket would be great for boats. It would keep the alternator out of moisture from the bilge. I was obviously a boating guy. Think about the. And he wondered what the price for the T-buckets. We aren't selling cars here.
No.
We don't have prices. Those are just friends of yours, Ed, right?
I think he's talking about that alternator bracket we did for a Chevy V8.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yes.
Yep.
And we moved that up right beside the upper hose.
Right.
Yes, instead of having the alternator way down under the oil pan. Absolutely, it would be good for a boat.
Right. Right. Yeah, that was when you were fitting a Chevy small block
in a Model T Ford.
Right.
Or we need it under the hood.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, that's the
I have a couple of those brackets made.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
So those might be available.
They would be available,
Someone wants to get one?
Yeah.
Okay, just email us. So email me. You can take care of that.
Yeah.
All right. So someone else said, good information. Now a question. You ever heard of pressure being trapped between the rings on pistons?
No.
Haven't heard of that.
That's I'd have to talk to my Total Seal friend.
Okay.
And I have a good friend there that works for Total Seal and knows all that stuff about rings. And every day they've come up with new results in the way to home motors and stuff. And and Total Seal has some good videos on that.
Yeah.
And I recommend whatever he said.
Right.
He's the ultimate guy. He knows everything in the whole world about piston rings.
Yeah, we'll defer to the expert on that one.
Yeah, right.
So here's another one. When you had a flathead that had a relief cut into the top of the block to help with the flow of the air on that L head, and you were using a part of a tin can on your compressor to help
put the rings in.
To put the rings in so they wouldn't catch on that.
Yes.
Okay. And not everybody. First of all, a lot of people didn't understand why your ring compressor didn't work. They weren't realizing the cutoff, the relief that was cut in there.
The cylinder wall, the deck is going below the surface.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So that ring compressor wouldn't go all the way around where it needed
to. That's right.
to.
Yeah.
Okay. So you use a part of a tin can or an aluminum can. Someone was worried about the paint that was painted on that tin can. Would that have any effect or matter?
I don't think it has any effect because it would be right there, and that's just assembling the rings. There's oil all over, oil all the pistons. And after you get the pistons in it, you turn it over up and down.
Yep.
And you wipe all that stuff clean again.
Yep.
Any kind of moisture, and you wipe it again before you put the cylinder heads on and clean everything out of there. So the paint off that can, maybe I don't know if Budweiser has a better kind of a paint or stickier than Coke or Pepsi or something.
Right.
But I don't know. We'd like to get a stickier paint, a better quality paint on our cans, I guess, maybe or something. But it has no effect.
Right. If there was any smallest amount, it would probably burn off along with the assembly lube real quick.
It'd go with it. Yeah. It'd float.
Yeah. Okay.
And we'd find it in the water. Yeah. So okay. Thanks.
Okay. Very good. We had a couple of engine blocks. I think we had an old flathead block that was beyond repair. It was broken up.
Yeah.
And someone asked about trying stitch welding or metal stitch.
We've done that. So sometimes on our production motors, that we don't weld up cracks, we don't repair cracks.
Okay.
Because we ship them out all over the world and we don't want to have problems when it's out of our control.
Right.
And so we've had something, we got equipment to pressurize the cylinder heads. We have that pressure system, everything else to weld up and some of the things they had some different maybe some chemicals they put in there to stop leaks.
Okay.
And we do some of the stitching.
Okay.
It'd be on something real expensive product
Yeah.
that we didn't want to throw away and didn't want to spend the money.
Right.
But we do have some welded. We used to take it downtown to people. They put a huge oven and actually welded it and done an excellent job.
Okay.
But I don't think they do that here in Phoenix anymore. I don't know if anybody welds up blocks but we've done that stitching.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that is a possible remedy.
Yes, absolutely.
And maybe if there's some amazingly rare old car that's 100 years old and there's just no other block,
but the flatheads, there's still blocks available.
Yeah.
And a lot of times if one of them's cracked, it's got more than one crack. Yeah, it's got some cracks here, and it's always got the 4 cracks.
Yeah.
On the Ford made them against that head bolt.
Okay.
The center head bolt there. And but there's other cracks someplace else. And even I had a Ford Flathead. I have one over here right now.
Yeah.
That once we cleaned it and everything, about 1.5 inches above the pan rail, it's got a hole right in the center right in the side of the motor.
Wow.
It's rotted in there. That's how thin that block is.
Wow.
And so we're going to fix that.
Okay.
And it's got a hole. It's so thin it rotted through there. So we're going to fill it with block sand.
Okay.
Block cement. They make a powder.
You might have to show that to me later.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
So we'll block the motor up certain angles. And so then we'll mix it up with water.
Okay.
And we have a whole box of it. We use it on our blocks.
Okay.
If we grind through a special motor, grind through the block, we'll just put this block filler in it.
Oh.
It's made for that. And let it dry, it turns to concrete. So we'll fix that block.
Interesting.
I fixed some others that way over the years.
All right.
Yeah. Some of that stuff is really strange.
Okay.
And some of the combinations that I've seen in boring stroking motors.
So you ready to take on some kind of technical questions like that?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. All right.
For instance, just real quick, we got a couple of minutes.
Sure. Okay.
I bought a bunch of, several sets of 455 Pontiac, 12.5-to-1 Pistons, standard bore.
Really?
And we put them in a Chevrolet motor with a Dodge 340 crank and ran them in a sprint car.
Okay. And they held
that
together?
That bore is a long stroke in a 455 Pontiac, small bore.
Right.
And you bored the Chevy motor out just a little bit.
Okay.
And with that 340 crank, made a good engine.
No.
But we're not telling everybody that because we don't race sprint cars anymore.
No. Unfortunately,
anyways,
just the people that watch our channel are going to be the ones who
you can do that back east and figure it out yourself.
Yeah,
so we have a lot of stuff we did to our motors that I don't have any secrets.
Okay.
I don't mind telling anybody because we quit racing and we've won a lot of our share. We run our share of racing.
Yes, I've seen a lot of trophies floating around like they're doorstops everywhere.
Yeah,
so many trophies,
and that's kind of fun. Over the weekend, it was kind of funny that I remind me the Indianapolis 500 race was such a nice race.
Yep,
and stuff and the race that's when we won Boone, Iowa, in 2002.
Okay,
we won the whole main event, about 450 cars that weekend, and we led every lap of the race except one. Out of the 40 laps, we led 39 of the laps, and we won the race. Somewhere in the middle of the race, somebody got around us.
Yeah.
But nobody will ever do that again.
That is amazing.
On that.
Yeah, so, like that is. You've got to feel really satisfied to.
Yeah,
have that.
Nobody ever led 39 of the laps.
That's crazy.
Of that race in a dirt track car.
Yeah. Wow.
So then I own the motor, transmission, rear end.
Man, you got a lot to be proud of.
I know. I am. I look back at it. That's in 2000. That's 25 years ago.
Yeah. But even still, that record's still holding strong.
Still strong, and it will be forever.
Yeah.
I will hear records of all times of people in racing and all kinds of things. Oh, he got a record. He's most born of this and a record of this and that and that. Yeah, that's one that nobody will ever beat.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So
congratulations.
I'm proud of that.
That's awesome, Ed.
Good.
All right. Well, we'll do some more. We'll do some more. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So that wraps up our first episode. Let us know if you're enjoying Ed's answers, and we'll do more because Ed has all the answers.